year, most students would know by now which university they'd be heading off to in the autumn.
It's not normal though, is it? Yeah. This year, however, many young people remain unclear about the next move for them after the government reversed that decision to use grades calculated by the controversial algorithm.
Azaria is one of those students. She lost out on a place to study medicine after her results were downgraded. But even after she was awarded her teacher's estimated grades, her future remains far from clear.
Obviously, I'm really pleased that I've been given the grades that my teachers thought I would get, but it just came with a whole new set of problems. It's as if they've picked up students from one problem and dropped them into a whole new heap of others. And the most stressful part of it is the fact that the students that are now there with the places for that course, there's no difference between us now apart from 4 days and the mistake that the government's made. I think that the government's going to have to do something to support the universities to allow them to accept those students into the courses that they've got onto. If they're taking an extra 50 students and they're actually saying, well, no, we're going to leave you till next year, that impacts the next year of students that are trying to apply on that course. They're now disadvantaged as well. It's just a trickle effect that's just going to keep affecting students to come.
Lots of very good points made by her. We're joined now by Professor Richard Harvey, Director of Admissions at the University of East Anglia, and Angela Gardliner, the Director of Student Services at the University of Hull. Morning both. Thank you both very much indeed for joining us. Professor Richard Harvey, first of all, have you got places for those students who now have the grades that they needed?
No. So it's actually a mixed story, Louise. So if we're talking about medicine, then no. And in fact, universities are fined by the government for going over. It's a really extraordinary situation.
So we're speaking to the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, a little bit later, specifically on those...
Well, I'm delighted you are. And that's excellent. I'm not quite sure which one of the ministers needs to sort this out, but probably education needs to talk to health, and we need to sort it out quickly.
OK, so just specifically on the medicine, for example, you would need the cap lifted, or do you need more money to support those students? What is it?
Broadly speaking, you need the cap lifted and you need the funds to follow. It's not easy even if you do that. It costs about UEA costs about £56,000 to educate a medical student per annum. Most of that money goes to the NHS. If that money isn't found, then there is a funding gap that falls in the NHS.
And just continue with those thoughts. It's a really difficult time for students, obviously a difficult time for the university as well. What's your advice? Your lines are open. What's your advice to students?
Yeah, well, stuff at university. Let's think about students. It's a nightmare for them, isn't it? Your student couldn't have got it more accurately. They've done fantastically well to get these grades. And now we're all in a bind. And the suggestions that have been flying around from the Department of Education, overshoot by 5% and we'll claw it back over the next 5 years and all those sorts of things. They're Weasley. They're absolutely Weasley suggestions. Now is the time for ministers to get a grip on this situation, call up Universities UK and get us a solution. And we need it, well, in the next few days, really.
Let's see what the situation is at the University of Hull and speak to Angela this morning. Angela, thanks for talking to us. I'm sure you're listening into what Richard is saying very carefully there. What is the picture that things are like in terms of those students who are exasperated, who are worried, who are concerned? How many phone calls are you getting at the moment?
So as an institution, we've extended our online chat service, and we're having students contact us regularly who are concerned about their places, who are wanting to understand what opportunities are available. And through that, we can provide support. So we've got a variety of different routes through where we can engage with our applicants and existing students, because obviously we've got returning students who still have concerns about what the next academic year is going to look like and how we're managing things for them. So we are having those students coming through, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that they're supported fully.
And what about from your perspective of making sure if you do have a larger intake this year, then you can be, to use the buzz phrase, COVID secure?
Yeah, we've done, Universities UK have provided a lot of guidance throughout lockdown, and they're continuing to do that, which is helping us to ensure that the campus is a safe space. In terms of being able to extend the provisions, we're extending our student teaching timetable, which covers into early evenings. We continue to avoid the Wednesday afternoons and weekends to allow students to engage with sports and social activities as part of their extracurricular activities, but ensuring that we've got an increased number of spaces on campus, increasing the cleaning space around communal teaching and social spaces, and ensuring that we follow all government guidelines and working practices, both in the teaching spaces but also in the accommodation, because we have quite a variety of on-campus accommodation at the university as well.
Andrew, just briefly, is your accommodation full? Can people, if people are still applying, can they get a space?
We do still have some spaces, and we work very closely with partners to provide that, so there is space available, yes.
Richard, Harvey, can I just ask you as well, because I'm really conscious that people have been left in really difficult situations, including in universities. There will be some people, presumably, that you've given places to, and then other people's get higher grades. I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to start telling people that they can't come, are you?
No, I mean, UEA was lucky in that we saw the storm coming. We dramatically lowered grades. We've got loads of accommodation. And if we're not talking about medicine and midwifery, where there's this tension that is imposed by government guidelines, then we're open. And, I'd be delighted to hear from people actually on live chat, which is open now probably. Actually, when I said that, there's probably 1 million people at UEA who are screaming, it doesn't open till 9, you idiot. But, we would be happy to hear from people who've got good grades, and we're not in the business. I mean, ministers were very clear about this. Do not reject people unnecessarily, they said. Do not. This is not the year for nitpicking, they said. We agree. We've bending over backwards to help people. The sort of remaining bind in the system is these government-imposed limits, which really do need to get sorted out. I mean, but for everyone else, very happy to have them. Brilliant, congratulations to them. Fantastic, and super delighted to try and help people.
Richard, I mean, you're dealing with it with a wonderful sense of humour this morning, but underlying that is obviously this sense of frustration. Are you worried about what university will look like for many students who are preparing to go for the first time in, say, 6 months' time? Are you worried about this next academic year?
Well, I think any citizen is worried about the next 6 months. I mean, what I know, because, in order for me to come into university over the last week, I think I had to fill in 11 different safety assessments. Universities are pretty serious places when it comes to health and safety, socialisation and so on. I mean, we employ most of the epidemiologists and virologists in this country. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be as safe as it can be. Is that a sort of fair? That sounds like a sort of fair thing to say, doesn't it? There's a lot of expertise going on. As for the social life and fun and all that sort of stuff, I really don't think you have to worry about that at that age. I'm confident that people will find ways of having social interactions that are fun, interesting, intellectually stimulating and safe.
And Andrew, just really briefly, many of these students will, they have not been at school for many months. They've been through a very stressful situation. What can you do to help them? Just briefly.
We do a series of online induction pre-arrival for students, and we've also provided a number of opportunities to engage with the academic areas because, as you say, we're fully appreciative of the fact that the normal learning environment has been quite different and they haven't been in the classroom. We've extended our welcome period and we're delivering a series of faculty essential and social activities during this period to help students connect and also settle into their experience with us. I think in terms of campus accommodation, we fully appreciate that it's going to be that moving away from home can be an anxious time at any rate, at least without the situation that we find ourselves in, but we still need this to be an exciting time. So we're working really hard to ensure that the accommodation isn't only a COVID-19 safe space but also a fun, enjoyable space. Working with the Students' Union is critical, so to be able to enjoy the real sense of well-being and community as part of a university experience, the Students' Union critical, and we work really closely with the whole Students' Union to ensure that this happens so that students have got a variety of different activities clubs and societies to engage with both before they arrive and to ensure that that continues whilst they're with us.
Okay, Angela Gardner from the University of Hull, Professor Richard Harvey as well from the University of East Anglia. We will put on our social media when your line's open, so we'll get you out of that.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Tell them and we'll put it on, okay?
I could see the team frantically running up. Why did he say that on the television? Now, if you still travel by train, we're getting a big clue this morning about how much more you may be paying for your tickets from January.
Yep, Nina is at a very quiet Leeds station for us this morning.